Sandy Lowry's. And the Good Girl Confessional podcast is proudly brought to us by WB40, a platform for women 40, 50, 60 and beyond. And you can check out Women Beyond 40 at WB40.com. Today in the confessional, I am chatting with Karen Ostenried, who's an extraordinary woman. She survived the extraordinary bushfires of Kinglake, and living through that experience changed her perspective forever. From being a world-class scientist, she now runs her business, which is an equine, I want to get this right, an equine assisted therapy and learning business. So she takes groups of people through a program where she gets to work with some extraordinary four-legged friends. This is such an extraordinary business. Formerly, it's been called the Matanya Effect. She is now renaming this business to be called the Leadership Revolution. And Karen works with so many extraordinary people to heal their anxiety, but also in team building and learning all about yourself. Please welcome to the confessional, Karen Ostenried. Hello, Karen, and welcome to the confessional. How are you today?
I'm not too bad, Sandy. Just come back from a break, so I'm ready to rock and roll.
Oh, nice. And where did you go for a break?
We went up to Coffs Harbour. It was absolutely beautiful. I thought, is it going to be warm enough? Is it going to be pouring rain like the East Coast has had? And no, it was just perfect. Only one day where it was cold, and yeah, it was lovely. Lots of beach time.
Oh, how lovely. And I think we'd all like to be there right now, especially down here in Victoria where it's a little bit chilly.
Yeah, that's an understatement. When I got off the plane down in Melbourne again, I put on my one of my jumpers before I left the plane, which was lucky. And then the other jacket, and then tried to lay as many things as I could. And then when we got home, because the house hadn't been heated for 10 days, it was absolutely freezing. So we had the wood fire blasting, the inverter blasting, and it was still cold. So thankfully it's warming up now.
Oh, wow. Because I know it was like 4 degrees or something overnight. And you are situated in the beautiful, is it Kinglake?
Kinglake, but it's
Kinglake.
just at the tip of the Yarra Valley. So we're actually
Beautiful.
above the Yarra Valley, looking down at all the minions below us.
And that is a beautiful part of the world. Beautiful part of the world, but cold.
Yes, that comes from being high up, I suppose.
So I'm thrilled to have you in the confessional today because I'm absolutely captivated by the work that you do in your extraordinary business. So, formerly known as the Matanya Effect, but really you are now the Leadership Revolution, which I love that name. Tell us about your business and tell us about the incredible work colleagues that you work with.
Yeah, it's very different. It is, but I love it because it ticks all the boxes. It's very practically based. It's reproducible, highly reproducible. It's well tested, and it works on multiple levels. So it's a professional and life skills development programs we run, and they work for all learning types. They work for all levels of people, from teams to senior executives. So C-suiters easily get as much benefit out of it as possible. And it works with all learning types. So the kinesthetic, the audible, and the visual, all at the same time. And it works on multiple skills at the same time. So, and it's very rapid. It's probably the fastest way of learning that you can do. And our beautiful teachers weigh, on average, about 500 kilos, have 4 legs and fur. They're not dogs, but they are horses. So they don't have any preconceived biases. So they don't care whether you're a CEO or a trainee or an apprentice in the company. and they don't hold grudges. They have no, so they can't apply those biases in their responses to their students. So very powerful ways of learning, and simply they respond. So we use them as a feedback mechanism and a partner. So they work on multiple levels like relationships, as well as communication skills, as well as problem skills, and it develops them very quickly in the one time. So the primary focus is to expand your own awareness of yourself, what you're thinking, saying, and doing, and how that impacts the success of the people around you. And so that can be taken in your home environment, or even in the boardroom. It makes a very, very big difference. So, and horses want to be in a herd because that's how they have they stay safe. So they want to know that they can trust their herd. They want to know that their herd, the members of the herd, are accountable and responsible, and they want to be able to communicate easily with their herd in order to be in that space. They can detect and read your heartbeat and your energy in your body, so they will know when one member of the team is not on the same page. They'll know when one member of the team is frustrated or angry, and they can distinguish between anger and anxiety. So they have such highly developed, I suppose, radar system, and they can also pick out BS really, really quickly. That they'll then go, oh, do I feel safe if this person isn't reliable? Or if this person is really angry, what should I be worried about? So they have a very, very profound and very fast reaction on people going, And my job as a facilitator is simply to help them read the responses of the horse, or what the horse is telling them, and ask the humans, well, what do you need to change that situation? Right. And so it's very, very quick. And if it's not working, the old saying, definition of stupidity is doing the same thing and expecting a different answer. So I'll say, well, what do you need to do differently? What do you need to change in order to get the outcomes that you're looking for?
I think this is so extraordinary, and that learning that horses have such incredible emotional intelligence that they can read a person and read the room far better than human beings tend to do for each other. I think it's so beautiful. But how did you actually get into this? Because you actually, before we start that, tell us about your background, because you have this extraordinary background, Karen.
I was a professional singer on stage from the age of 15 onwards. And then coming from working class parents, they said, you got to get a real job. There's no money in the arts, which is which is wrong. Excuse me. And then so I also wanted to work in helping people, so specifically in sport rehab or something like that, because I was quite sporty as a child. I ended up going into medical science and loved it, absolutely loved it. It was problem solving 101. Here's the disease, here's the area that we're working on. We've got to find out what are the causes, what can we do to change that, what can we interrupt the channel of disaster. And the people were great. They were all there because they had a purpose, and their purpose was to help people, or to prevent diseases, or to cure diseases. So I found that environment very stimulating, very supportive. There were only a couple of egos, and they were generally kind of really down to earth, real people, although they did still lack communication, people skills. Like as we were just chatting before, some people with high intellect, or if they're in the tech area and that's solely what they're working on, they don't necessarily communicate that well. And so because I was on stage at the time, I would often assist them in their presentations, and I represented a number of quite a few departments to get funding, because I could basically translate the complicated to the simple. And so I thought, okay, so when I leave science, maybe I can go in the communications side of things. And I still love the music, and I ended up even doing that in science. I joined a jazz band, which was made up of all scientists, and we did all the science conferences. And I also got to travel overseas because science is global and always has been. So I had the opportunity to work for 12 months in Germany. And there was a few unique things because I didn't have a PhD, I didn't have a doctorate. I just basically worked my way up, and any new development or any new technology, I was like, yeah, I want to learn that. Can I learn that? And so I would just learn everything I could. I've got a passion for learning, or a love of learning is one of my character strengths. So yeah, it got me into new technologies. I went overseas, came back, developed a new technology within Australia, and then ended up in a biotech company as chief operations officer. And whenever I was in the new technology area of R&D, I then had to refine that technology and then train everyone else to use it. So got into that training space, which those transferable skills of problem solving and training and that communication now play a really important role in what I do as a facilitator in equine assisted learning. So yeah, it was a blessed life, I would have to say. But how I got into equine assisted learning in the first place was we had a property in Kinglake and it was wiped out in the 2009 Black Saturday fires. And 3 years later, I had one horse left out of our herd, and it was behaving very dangerously. So I took it to get fixed at an equine assisted therapy program, and very quickly found out that the horse was simply responding to what was happening with me. So I had, I had PTSD quite severely, and my horse was literally telling me, what do I have to be afraid of? What do I have to be afraid of? And jumping all over the place and running me down and stuff, and people going, you're going to have to put him down, he's too dangerous, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, I can't do that because he's recovering from burns and he's been through so much. He's my only kind of link, to what I had before. So, yeah, first session, I literally thought, I'd been doing natural horsemanship and I thought I knew everything, but yeah, I didn't know anything about myself. And he was simply telling me that I was giving him the message that we have to be on hyper alert and that we can't relax. So when you're in PTSD, and especially in immediate trauma, you go into hyper alertness. Your adrenal glands are going off the Richter scale and producing heaps of adrenaline, which is your fight and flight hormones. And he was reading that out of my body. And even though I thought I was calm and I thought I had everything controlled, because after all, I was a smart person. I was an operations officer of a biotech company. I can handle anything like this. But yeah, obviously, emotionally and internally, that was not the case. And he was reading that part of me. And then they said, oh, you need to breathe, Karen. And I'm going, I had gritted teeth and I was like, I am
Yeah.
breathing. And then I realized that I was as tense as anything. And because it was this dominoes effect, I would be anxious inside, he would read it, and he would start running around like a crazy thing and jumping up and down and doing all the things that you see in the wild movies. And yeah, then I realized, oh my God, I'm as tense as anything. My jaw was really, really tense. And so I took a deep breath in, a couple of deep breaths in, and started the process. And as soon as within a minute, he was calmed down. So I thought, wow, this is powerful
Wa-
stuff.
Wow. Yeah, that's I've got goosebumps actually listening to that story. I find that really, really, and quite emotional. I don't even know. First of all, thank you for sharing that with us, because for those, we have a lot of people overseas who may not
Mm.
realize um, the devastation of those bushfires that went through Kinglake, and how, yeah, it was quite an extraordinary time. So I am not surprised at all that you had PTSD, and I can't even begin to imagine the effects at the time, but also the long term effects of going through such an extraordinary experience. And I'm really sorry that you had to go through that.
Well, you have to look. So I was always a very positive person. I was always kind of taught as a child to look for the silver lining. And without the fires, I wouldn't have discovered equine assisted therapy. I wouldn't have really discovered how good it was, even though I thought, oh yeah, I knew about it before the fires, but like I said, I thought it had more to do with training horses rather than humans. And so that was, without the fires, I wouldn't have been where I am today. And even though there was a lot of horrible things that happened during the fires and after, we had big problems with insurance companies, builders, etc., etc. I'm absolutely, what they say, kind of fulfilling my life purpose by now doing what I'm doing. That's kind of the outcome. So yeah, and I every time in the arena with a group of people, I'm just zinging with energy, and yeah, you just know you found your happy place.
Unbelievable. And, how extraordinary, too, that through that trauma, as you said, you thought that you were going to heal your horse.
Mm.
And in some ways, he healed you. So I think that's quite extraordinary.
Yeah, and he's still by far after I went through the program. So we progressed really quickly after had that initial session. So the people who ran the program said he was the highest response horse that they'd ever seen. So these people took on rehab horses that were dangerous and kind of worked with them, and they kept him in the program to help other people for another 18 months after I went through. So he's
Wow.
definitely a one in a million horses, and but you can get the same skills and same kind of level from any horse, well, most horses. So it's just a matter of working with them and finding and allowing them to calm down, allowing them to trust you to work with everyone.
And what was that beautiful horse's name? Or what is his name?
His name is Duke, and he's my baby. So he's on my kind of my profile picture, and in behind me, he's a brilliant horse for working with anxiety. So this was a high functioning team. Sorry. Sorry, we both have
Okay.
colds. That's my husband dying in the background. Um, So um, this person here, I don't know if you can see that, Catherine, she was absolutely petrified of horses. And Duke is not only my best horse, but he's also the biggest horse in our team, which is quite intimidating because he will, in a group of people, he'll kind of exactly be beeline to that person that is the most anxious. And he'll walk straight up to them and just drop his head, going, "It's all right, I'm here for you," type of thing. And by the end of 40 minutes, they're absolutely in love with him and all over him and want to take him home. So
Oh,
he's one of those healing horses that you hear about.
how extraordinary. And how many horses do you have, Karen, now?
We've got 4 in the program, and we've got 5 all up. I've just taken on just the beginning of end of summer this year. I took on a wild caught Brumby because I find that their responses and the reactions are really kind of pushing my levels of emotional intelligence to be able to work with him. And he's probably a project of about 12 to 18 months, but I hope to bring him into the program because he's got a very live personality. So he thinks he's going to be boss of everybody from the get-go, and so it's about him kind of learning how to interact politely with people. But he'll be in the program a couple of years down the track. But ultimately, I'd like to have about 12. And at the moment, the program, we're not doing any riding in our program. That the equine assisted learning style or brand that we do is no riding. But I would like to add that on to our programs down the track when we have the space, the property, and the ability to maintain 12 horses. So we could actually go, okay, let's go. So you've done all the groundwork, you've learnt about managing your emotions. Let's go up into the saddle and go for a nice kind of quiet ride somewhere just to kind of confirm that connection. Not that you can't get that connection on the ground, but when you're in the movement. So I know because I've got a medical science background, I did a lot of research into other forms of equine therapy. And I don't call myself a therapist, and I can't call myself a therapist because I don't have any psychology qualifications or counseling qualifications, although I do kind of self study those topics all the time in human behavior. There's a type of movement that the horses create through your body, which actually stimulates multiple parts of your brain. So I would like to kind of investigate that avenue as well. So yeah, there's just kind of endless possibilities.
Yeah, wow. I find it just so exciting, but also intriguing about how it all works. So tell us about the groups of people that generally come through your program.
Well, I'll probably keep the tenure effect side of the business for the NDIS clients that I've moved to during COVID, because obviously doing the business side of it, the professional development, I like to work with groups, and that's kind of one unique factor about our programs. A lot of equine assisted therapy is a one-on-one process, whereas equine assisted learning, and specifically our type of equine assisted learning, works better with groups because of and works better with kind of well, I love working with teams and leaders because it really kind of tests their skills and tests their communication, tests their problem solving, tests their ability to respond quickly. So agile thinking. And number one is that emotional intelligence piece. Can you be that calm leader that your team needs in order to pull this through? And so I'll keep them a tenure effect for that side, maybe kind of incorporate that as a not-for-profit. And then moving to the leadership revolution, that will be for businesses, groups, sports teams, and like I said, the corporations that really want to upskill their people, including their executive team. So start from the top down to really kind of get their organization humming, improve performance, improve ability to respond. So agile thinking is a really big skill that we develop here, and that communication and trust piece. So since
I love
in the late,
that.
yeah, in that the kind of, there's been a lot of research from a lot of the big name kind of companies about trust within organizations and leadership. And trust was the highest nominated character that employees wanted to see um, from their leaders. And it was also the most lacking when they did, large scale surveys. So, in order for the horse to work with you, they must trust you. And they can, like I said, they've got the greatest BS radars. They can see through any kind of falsehood in any way, shape, or form. So my mission is to develop authentic, trustworthy, considerate, and empathetic leaders. It doesn't mean they need to be weak, because in order to move a 500 kilo horse around, they need to actually have self confidence. They need to, be that rock that everyone can look to in hard times, and be that person of inspiration, going, oh, well, we can try this, and have basically the presence, emotional intelligence, and that communication to pass that through to their teams. So yeah, I'll be going a leadership
Yeah,
revolution. It will be the new kind of business name, but we're simply just separating the not-for-profits and the youth and family side to the actual corporate business side.
yeah, great. And it's so for that, obviously it sounds like it's a brilliant team building exercise then to bring
Yep,
a group of workmates in and to actually probably work through issues that maybe they didn't even know they had.
absolutely. I mean, you think about it, how often do we actually assess those what's called soft skills, or what I call essential life skills, really objectively? So normally when they're analyzing soft skills, they're asking for self-assessment. And one of my kind of common things to do, because every program we do includes communication as a skill, So I will often get them to rate themselves, self-rate themselves on 1 to 10, what they think their communication skills are. And they'll often get into the 7, 8s, 9s. And then after I come back in, I'll ask them that question again, and they'll probably put themselves down into the 4s. And I said, well, in realistic terms, you're probably somewhere in between. So don't be too hard on yourself. So, yeah, we don't get the chance to objectively measure the skills, which happens in the arena. And look, I love working with, and it gives like new teams the opportunity to kind of develop the relationships to really check, check out how do I fit into this team and how can I, work with safely, psychological safety. How can I be psychologically safe in this team to work at my highest level? And then I also love seeing those high performing teams like the senior execs, because they get out of their comfort zone up here and really kind of go, maybe I could do that differently. And I love watching both because the magic happens for all groups that come into the arena, even kind of all levels. Like I said, and we can escalate and de-escalate the programs to suit, for appropriate application. And it's, just really exciting to see. And the debrief, so the higher the level I've noticed of skills, the better the debrief is.
Yeah,
because it is
wow.
about reflecting about what happened and why do you think that happened and what have you learnt.
And no, that's right. And the ability to I guess be able to, for a lot of us, like, letting go of stuff or, being, you can't let go of responsibility. You can't delegate. You can't do all of those things. So I find that kind of part of human nature would really come out in the arena when you've got, as you say, like those huge horses standing there.
Yeah, everyone. So, and it's a lot about choices, about freedom of choice. And even kind of when I have a mixed team, say I've got a team leader with their team, each one of the team members, including the leader, will take a role as a leader and then as a team player. So you get to see the two sides of everyone and the two abilities, and you always see the micromanagers, which because they will want to step out of that team player thing and take over or take control. And the horses will then get confused because they've identified the leader, but there's this other person that's coming up as a leader and thinking, this might be an unsafe situation, because in the wild, in a herd situation, that would be a stallion confronting another stallion, and then who knows what's going to happen to the herd. So you will see that coming up and the horse gets really confused and thought, I'm thinking about leaving this team and finding another one that's better. So them taking control can cause will show up those consequences.
Fantastic, because you always do see those sort of people in all organizations, and I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
we've all been on both sides of that fence. So I think I just wanted to ask though, for anybody who's never ever met a horse in real life, or they've not really had a lot of experience around horses, how do you introduce people to the horses? And like, I really, I guess what I'm trying to get across is that it is a safe environment, and even though you've never met a horse, so tell us how that happens.
Okay, so my role as lead facilitator and facilitator of any program is primary thing is to keep both the horses and the humans safe. So obviously I have I test my horses and I retrain them to refresh them on appropriate behaviour, and none of the horses kick or bite. And so I have vetted all of the horses in the program, and there will be days where one isn't kind of not up to it or might have had a bad night or something like that, and I'll immediately identify that and pull them out of the session and bring in another horse. So I normally only work with 2 horses at a time, and so I'll pull that horse out straight away. And then for the humans, they have 3 levels of safety, psychological safety. One is staying outside the arena and looking through the fence and just watching the activity. The second level is coming inside the arena and just staying at the fence so they won't participate with the group and the horse. And then the third level is being in the team and actually working with the horse. So every individual, it's challenge by choice. Every individual has that opportunity. And trust me, I still get, for the ones that want to stay out, I've only had one person in 5 years stay out of the arena for the entire time. Usually I ask every kind of 5 minutes or 10 minutes, do you want to move into a level? Do you want to move into the next level? And they normally get, say yes, yes. Only one person stayed outside. And then the debrief, his contribution to the debrief was amazing. In fact, his supervisor came up to me and said, I have never seen him contribute to a discussion like he did today. So even at that level,
wow.
they're still learning lots. So
Oh,
that's how I
that's
keep everyone
extraordinary.
safe.
How good is
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I for one love horses. But I know that I would imagine that for some people, as I said, if they've never even been near in the presence of a horse, it can be a little bit intimidating.
They are. And it's really interesting because we have 2 horses and 2 pony size horses that we use. And everyone just assumes because they're a pony, they would be much easier to work with. But I don't know, I kind of relate it to dog sizes. You get the little yappy dogs and then you get the bigger ones that are more docile. And that's what I find with ours, that even though people assume that because the size is smaller, they'll be easier to handle, that's not necessarily the case. Even though they're small in stature, they're big in attitude. So, um, but we do have those options.
So I find that really fascinating. I love the idea of the group work and the group therapy, but I also really love that you work with NDIS clients as well, and people who. So tell us again. You were actually saying to me previous to us recording that you've worked with people recovering from a stroke. As an example, with the horses and how beneficial that has been.
Yeah, I was kind of not sure, and when I started doing the NDIS work, although I had a lot of kind of medical science background of different conditions, we can't work with everybody. There are certain things that we can work with. So the mental aspect of stimulating the brain in a pleasurable way is a big part of what horses can do. Horses can actually help you regulate your heart rate and calm you down. That's been kind of with the 2 electric magnetic fields around the horse and the human, when you come into close contact, simply by and some equine assisted therapies will do a lot of this. They'll simply get people to just put their hands on the side of the horse and just breathe nice and slowly, and then they will actually synchronize. So that calms the human down. So I always kind of say the higher the emotion, the lower the ability to think clearly. And I mean, that's true because we go from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system. So going from the rest and digest to the fight and flight, and then vice versa. The horses actually help you go down into that rest and digest mode. And that's where you can think again. So it has that ability to calm the person down, and then we can just kind of step through the ability to think and to do different things again. So what would you like to do now? And they say that it just helps them have breakthroughs about, I can't do this anymore, or I can't do that anymore. And I'm going, well, you don't, never put limits on yourself. And the horses are very encouraging to get them either moving again or focusing on what they need to do. So this person who had a stroke, she was still her walking wasn't completely great yet, but she was so kind of focused on the limitations of her body and worrying about different things that it stopped her from actually looking forward and being positive and keeping on going. So one of the things is, one of the activities is look into the future, and that is stepping over poles with the horse without knocking them over. She was assisted by two other people, but she did it with the horse. And she said, I just noticed then that I'd been looking down and behind me so much that I hadn't even thought. I wasn't looking forward. I wasn't looking to the next progress point. So she said it completely changed my focus in life. And her focus in life was then reset to kind of look into the future rather than to look what had happened. So that's a psychological point, as well as that relax the body enough to actually step over the poles, and she didn't trip on anything. So, I mean, she had support, but she managed to do that, got that self-confidence back. The other group I like in the NDIS sphere is the medium to high functioning autism people, because they will have a lot of communication skills issues, and they still have to think, and then they will have to communicate to the team to get through problems. But I say that there's no failure in the arena, only opportunity to learn. So we've got two mottos that we always work with, even with senior execs, is set up for success, and there is no failure, only the opportunity to learn. And so by the end of a curriculum program, which we do with NDIS clients, they will be saying, have I set up for success? Okay. No, this isn't a failure. What do I need to learn to get to success? And and you hear them. I get reports back from their parents going, oh, I did this the other day, and so said, did you set up for success, Mum? And, there is no failure. So it works. It kind of has a really positive impact on those people as well. And the best example I had was high functioning autism guy, and when we had the session 3 was the communication piece, and his mum goes, oh, I'm not sure if this is going to work or not, and I'm going, just trust in the process, it'll be fine. And she said at the end of the program they had a graduation at their school, and he never put his hand up to do anything because he was kind of really shy, really introverted. And they said, is any of the students want to put up their hand to help people to their seats during this graduation? And he put up his hand.
Oh.
So he, for the first time in his life, chose to be a leader. He chose to help people, and he did it confidently. So she said the confidence level has just gone through the roof.
Oh, that is so beautiful, Karen. I think this is why I love what you're doing. I think this is extraordinary. I'm so thrilled that you could join me here this morning in the confessional and tell us all about it. I think your story is so moving and so beautiful to have gone through so much to come out the other side and, as you say, find your purpose, and for your beautiful horses and yourself to be helping so many people. It's just bloody delightful.
Well, it hasn't been easy. I spent the first 2 years simply educating people about what equine assisted learning was and what it could do. So now I think I'm in my stride, and I'm a whole 60 years of age, since this is, women beyond 40, you can still take on a new career. I took it on in my mid-50s and loving every minute. I've never been so much more alive ever before. So I thank you for the opportunity, Sandy, for helping me spread that kind of knowledge and education about, horses can do amazing things.
Absolutely. And women can do amazing things. And I love, thank you for pointing that out. Happy 60th birthday, by the way. And how bloody fantastic that that, as women, we are not limited by our age. And when we find our purpose, we just find our purpose. And for those who are only listening to this and can't see your face, you can see the passion and the joy and the smiling going on. And that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us.
And it's glad that it's reciprocated in your face.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sandy. Bye everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. The Good Girl Confessional podcast is brought to you by WB40, Women Beyond 40 magazine. Available now at WB40.com. The Good Girl Confessional podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to quality podcasts. We're also now available on YouTube. We chat with really interesting women about their hard-won wisdom, but it really helps us if you can subscribe, like, and share the podcast. Thanks so much for your support. Bye for now.